Like just about everything in 2020, election night is going to be, well, a little different than what we're used to.
All of that adds up to the potential of not knowing the results of the presidential race on election night.
That doesn't mean that there's a fraud happening if we see this red mirage, blue shift, however we want to describe it.
We're breaking down 3 ways election night 2020 could be different.
What keeps you up at night?
I'll tell you what keeps me up at night.
Let's see what's brewing. I'm Jenna Bourne, and I'm an investigative reporter at 10 Tampa Bay. If you're new here, welcome to our caffeine-fueled, homemade deep dive into issues that matter to you. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. So the goal of this episode is to keep you from being surprised on election night. We want you to know what to expect so you're not caught off guard. All 3 election night differences we're going to be talking about have a common thread: the expected spike in mail-in voting this year because of COVID-19. Number 1 on our list: election night might turn into election week. Or longer.
We shouldn't be expecting election night. It might be weeks, it might be up to a month after election day that we actually find out who won the election.
Kevin Morris is a voting rights researcher with the Brennan Center for Justice at the NYU School of Law. He says it'll likely take longer for some states to count ballots this year because of the expected increase in mail-in voting. According to Associated Press data, only about a quarter of states started counting mail-in ballots before Election Day. Some states won't start counting them until after polls close on election night.
The earlier they start, the earlier they're done counting. It's as simple as that.
And in some states, your ballot doesn't even have to be postmarked until Election Day, meaning those ballots could start coming into Supervisors of Elections offices days after polls close. I caught up with the Florida Supervisors of Elections President Craig Latimer, who's also the Supervisor of Elections in Hillsborough County. He tells me despite Florida's reputation for elections that drag on, he's not worried.
What keeps you up at night?
I'll tell you what keeps me up at night. My wife's Labradoodle. He barks all night long.
Nothing about this election?
No.
He tells me one big reason why Florida started counting ballots 22 days before Election Day.
We also, by law, have to upload the early votes into our system the day before the election, that Monday. So at 7 o'clock or shortly after, the canvassing board's going to order us to go ahead and produce the results that we have at that point. And we're going to have all of the vote by mail up to that day and all of the early vote, and then the precincts will start rolling in.
So this all brings us to the second way election night 2020 could be different. We could see a phenomenon called the red mirage, or in more academic circles, the blue shift. A red mirage is less whimsical than the name might lead you to believe. Democratic data and analytics firm Hawkfish told Axios in September they're expecting that President Donald Trump will appear to win in a landslide on election night, and then could ultimately lose when all the mail-in ballots are counted. That's because more Republicans are expected to vote in person this year than Democrats, and in some states, those in-person ballots are counted first. A Wall Street Journal NBC News poll found nearly half of Joe Biden supporters surveyed, 47%, said they would vote by mail. Compare that to President Trump's supporters at 11%. In some previous elections, people in academic circles have called this phenomenon the blue shift. Researchers like this guy, he's the Ohio State Election Law Program Deputy Director, Professor Stephen Huffner. How big of a factor do you expect this phenomenon to be for this election?
So going into this election, there's quite a bit of uncertainty about the way in which this phenomenon, this blue shift phenomenon, might play out.
Some experts are casting doubt on Hawkfish's model, saying it's unlikely to be as extreme of a shift as they're predicting.
Real or not real?
That's because of states like Florida, where the state supervisor of elections president told us mail-in and early voting ballots will get counted before in-person election day voting. Does that mean that the red mirage blue shift is unlikely to happen in Florida?
Well, it certainly means that the kind of shift that might result from the mail-in ballots is not likely to happen in Florida. That problem will be in places like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, which are also battleground states, of course, this year.
Here's why this matters.
It'll end up being a rigged election, or they will never come out with an outcome. They'll have to do it again.
The president has been casting doubt for months about the validity of an election with widespread mail-in voting.
There is no way you can go through a mail-in vote without massive cheating.
So the president's supporters might perceive a blue shift as a sign of fraud, when really it's just different kinds of ballots getting counted at different times.
A delay after election night in knowing the official results is not a reflection of a problem. It, in fact, is a demonstration of the sound design of the process.
Which brings us to our third difference. It could take longer for news organizations to call races. You're probably used to news outlets competing to be the first to do this. I know I am.
Everyone's going to have to exercise a whole lot of restraint because viewers want to know on election night. We all want to stay up and not go to sleep until we know who the next president is going to be.
Trusted sources like the Associated Press, which will call more than 7,000 races nationwide in this election, they're trying to manage news consumers' election night expectations.
If there is a real increase in mail-in voting, it may simply be that they aren't able to count fast enough for us at the AP to be able to declare a winner. And that's okay. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's something that's gone wrong in this election. It simply means, again, that there might just not have been enough time on election day to count all of the ballots.
Thanks for watching What's Brewing. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss an episode, and I'll see you next time. Those ballots could start coming into supervisors of... You want to come up here? This isn't what she wanted? You don't want to be a TV star? Thanks for... Mocha. And I'll see you next time. Really, Mocha? I can't work under these conditions.